All right, everybody. It's right at 7 p.m., so we will call our meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dan, do you want to lead us?
Gee, I will.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on our agenda is approval of the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from March 17th, 2025.
Move that we approve the meeting minutes of March 17th.
Second.
Any questions or comments or suggested revisions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Next item on our agenda is the appointments. I think we're setting the record here for consecutive meetings without needing any
Without any
appointments where all of our positions are filled. We'll move on to our meet and greet with our new town clerk, Jen Espinal. Jen, let me get started, then I'm going to ask you to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce your family who's here tonight. Not sure if you heard this from us or from me, but we are very grateful and happy to have you. We're really looking forward to having you be part of the team. And Mike was sharing just this morning with me some of your very early ideas on things that we can improve and make better, and I thought that's awesome. I started right away with not only picking up with everything that you have to do with your normal job just to do the normal job, but being proactive and looking for things that we could do different and better. And we're very, very grateful to have you. And I guess your first official meeting is our next one. Is that right?
May.
May. Yeah, that's our next one. Yeah. So you want to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce your family, and we'll probably take a picture for the submit to our local newspaper.
All right. Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start off by doing a very brief introduction about myself and then introduce my family. And I just have some words that I'd like to share with all of you today. So again, Jen Espinal, newly appointed town clerk for the town of Granby. Very, very excited for this opportunity. It's been a wonderful fit from the minute I submitted the application up to this very point. So I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. I come from the town of Simsbury, where I was assistant town clerk for about a little bit over 5 years. And those 5 years afforded me a great wealth of knowledge, which I am bringing on board to the town of Granby. As Mr. Ferrantino said, that there's a lot of great things happening in Granby, but definitely some areas of improvement. Improvement is always ongoing, so that's kind of what I've hoped to bring to the table. I'd like to introduce my family. So starting from, let's see, my right-hand side, Margaret Sheehan. She is a very dear friend, my best friend, and also my Irish mother. So the story is we worked in the insurance business for a little bit over 12 years, and she just has taken me and my family under her wings and has loved us, supported us through every life challenge, and she's nothing short of a great mother, so I'm very blessed for her. My husband, Doug, my son, Davian, my daughter, Bella, and my oldest son, David. David actually works for the town of Simsbury. He works for the Public Works Department. He's been working there 2 years, David? 3 years now, and he's also going to college, finishing up his second year at Tunxus and transferring to CCSU, I always get it wrong, hoping to finish his career as a phys ed teacher. So I am very, very grateful and proud of my family. I couldn't be here without their love and support, so thank you. And just a couple other things that I want to say. Once again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. As our town manager, Mike had mentioned, my name is Jen Espinal, and I have the privilege and the honor to be appointed as Granby's town clerk. I am formerly from the town of Simsbury, where I served for over 5 years. I extend my great gratitude to Mike and the Board of Selectmen for appointing me as Granby's town clerk. As a public servant, I pledge to lead with ethical integrity at the forefront. Our department will be rooted in professionalism and exceptional service to all residents, patrons, and colleagues. Everyone will receive the attention deserved, all treated equally and with fairness, and my doors will always be open. It is my commitment that all decisions in my department will be guided by the following pillars: fundamental principles, best practices, and what is in the best interest. I also want to take a moment to thank special individuals who have supported me during this transition. First, I am grateful to my friend and mentor, Trish Monroe and Colleen, town clerk and assistant in Simsbury, my former home. Trish has shared her wealth of knowledge with me, and both Trish and Colleen supported me every step of the way. I am also grateful to our former town clerk, Scott Nolan. Scott has been wonderful support and a great source throughout my transition. Last but not least, I want to thank my family once again and Mother Margaret, who have been great fans, encouraging me, supporting me as I take on this new role, and reminding me of all of my strengths. Once again, I thank the Board of Selectmen, my department staff, and the municipal staff and the residents who have welcomed me in a very special way. I look forward to a long tenure here in Granby, and I pledge to lead our department and represent the town of Granby with great pride. After all, Granby is the pride of the village. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, so we definitely want to take a quick break and take at least one picture of you and your family. And I forgot to say, I actually swore Jen in weeks ago. So I can fake swearing her in again and make her raise her hand if you want that picture.
I actually have those pictures. I've already sent to Shirley, or at least Jen, where you swore her in at Town Hall.
You want to take another one just in case? A fake one?
I will.
So how about we take, we can use them however you want. Take one with the board and Jen, and then one with Jen and her family. Does that work for you?
Yep.
Work for you guys?
Got a good one.
This is the one thing we got to get a little better in this room.
Gather around the flag, I guess. Flag.
You stand next to the flag.
Okay, sounds good. Everybody squeeze. You're doing good over there. This is pretty, that's good. Peggy, get a little closer to the cone. Knock the flag over.
Mark, turn at an angle, and then we'll fit in.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody's eyes are open, everybody's smiling, that's good. All right.
Let's get the family.
Okay, if I can have all of you come here. Yeah, right there. Not getting one. All right. That's funny. One, two, three. Okay, thank you. And Mother Margaret? Come on. You're not escaping. You want me to take yours?
Oh, thank you so much.
I guess it's maybe the coverage.
Yep, just focus and hit that phone button.
Great.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right, one more. Don't move. Those eyes open. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, if y'all are looking to watch the most riveting meeting you have ever been in, you're welcome to stay.
24 agendas.
or you're welcome to go and have dinner and watch it on TV later if you want. All right, thank you again for coming, that's awesome.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We'll give them a second to walk out. All right, I'm going to ask you guys to indulge me. There's a proclamation that I would like to issue that we intentionally did not put on the agenda because I wanted it to be a surprise. It's to our newest neighbor, Mr. Walsh.
Would not have allowed it, had he known about it.
There's rockers on the front porch.
There's what?
It's a
Rockers
rocker.
on the
It is,
front
huh?
porch.
All right.
Yeah, you might find Amber in there somewhere.
So Mike, the serious stuff first, you know how grateful we are to have you here. And for the public who haven't heard me tell this story before, when we first started talking to Mike about taking the job, he said, you know, if I take the job, can't hear me? All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. He said, we're going to look to move there and retire in Granby. And I thought to myself, and I might have even said out loud, yeah, every candidate. But they actually did. And so we have a proclamation, and then the board chipped in to get you something, a welcoming gift for you and Jan. So the proclamation reads, whereas the town of Granby recognizes the value of dedicated public servants and the positive impact they have on our community. And whereas in 2024, Mike Walsh became the town manager of Granby, bringing with him a dedication to public service, professionalism, and a commitment to the citizens. And whereas Mike and his wife Jan have also chosen to make Granby their home and have recently moved to town, becoming not only colleagues, but neighbors, fellow residents, and taxpayers. And whereas the Board of Selectmen and all town employees look forward to Mike spending more time at Town Hall, as his commute from home to work has been reduced by 96%. And the only traffic he will run into will be caused by the occasional turtle crossing the road or a bear showing off. And whereas local small businesses like Beeman's, Geisler's, Verona's, and The Barn will enjoy an increase in sales, with our most famous resident being in town for more than just lunch or carrying out his official duties. And whereas Town Manager Mike will help develop, propose, and present the budget and can now vote on the budget, guaranteeing at least one yes vote every year. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen, Town of Granby, and its residents do hereby extend a warm welcome to Mike Walsh and his family, both as a valued employee and as a new member of our community. We wish them many years of happiness and fulfillment in their new home. In witness hereof, I have blah, 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 signed it on this date. And we did actually this time affix the official seal. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We need a picture.
How about everybody?
Yeah, let's do everybody.
Professional spell right there.
Okay, I was thinking maybe over by the podium, just for a change,
Okay.
you know.
Whatever you say. Where do you want to sign? On right part of the podium? Or you want that?
Speech.
We'll put Ben together.
It's around it, you next to mine.
You see that?
Okay. All right, let me see if I can do it this way. Oh, yeah, look at that. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark, I'm going to stay up here for a moment.
Please, please.
So I want to personally thank first, the first selectman, Mark Fiorentino, for the proclamation, and each and every member of the board, Dr. Maffa, Kelly Rome, Peggy Chappell, Mark Newman. Also, the Guarco family, the directors in town, the employees, It felt like a really good fit when we had breakfast at the Harvest Cafe. And I thoroughly enjoy being a public servant in public service. And in a way, there's not a heck of a lot that Granby needs from me other than some updating of existing rules and regulations in place. But my wife and I couldn't help but notice the friendliness of the community. And I'll give you an example. We closed on the house on the 11th, and took us 6 hours for the movers to pack in the morning, an hour to get up here, and about 4 hours to unpack, and our house was filled with boxes. A day or two later, we stopped at the Cambridge Brew House for an opportunity to have our first meal. I've had personally many in Granby, but that was our first official one. I think the gentleman from Verona knows me by first name and so forth. But what impressed me was the owner of Cambridge had met my wife at the Granby Ambulance Association fundraiser, remembered the beer she liked, came out, delivered it to her, and chatted with us for about 10 or 15 minutes. It's that kind of community that you can't get anywhere else, and it's the kind of community that made us feel very comfortable to make the commitment. I've had, some would say, too long of a career, both in municipal and state government. I'd like to say that Granby will be my final chapter. I'll give you as many years as I possibly can, or as many as you'll possibly tolerate. And I can't thank you enough for the proclamation, the welcome to the community, and simply look forward to continuing to serve the community as we've done so far. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a presentation on the library building expansion. Amber, you guys take it away.
Hope we stay in a celebratory mood. Do we have the slideshow? This time. Well, thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to share with you some of the things we've been working on. As you know, when we spoke about our strategic plan that we met with just recently, we had been doing some work on the library to determine what the future of the library looks like. And as you see up here on the screen, this is the next chapter of the library, or what we hope to be. So let's kick off with the very first slide. All right, as we said when we discussed our strategic plan, we began this process by looking at the state standards that the Connecticut State Library provides. They give us a book called Best Practices in Connecticut Libraries. And this is essentially a rubric for us to judge how our library is doing. And as you'll see, so it studies things, I feel like I need to be over here. It studies a range of areas from facilities to finances, governance, staffing, resources, et cetera. And we determined that the number one need for our library is within facilities, and it is within our space. Next slide. From that point, we moved and we started working with an architect from the Northeast Collaborative Architects firm. His name is John Sheeb, and he started a study for us, a space planning study, to see if what we need, what is our library lacking, and what does our community want from it. We also used a document called the Library Space Planning Guide, also provided to us through the Connecticut State Library. And within that, we saw that they assessed the current use of library space, they identified functional needs, they gathered input from stakeholders, they met with with myself, the assistant director, all the other full-time staff many times to discuss what we've heard from our patrons, what we've heard from the other staff in regards to what we need. And the final study provided us with conceptual designs, renderings, cost estimates, a phased implementation, and tools for the library leadership to make informed decisions about how we move forward. So that was the beginning of it. Now here's the really fun stuff. So let's go to the next slide. So, and within our space planning, what we found out is that this is the recommended square footage for a town of our size and population and budget of our size. So really, to meet the state standards, we should be looking at about 19,000 square feet in our library. And our library is currently about 9,000 square feet. We are actually 9,856 square feet. Next slide, please. Here is the actual dimensions of our current library. And you will notice over along the side here is what we have as existing, and then what the state recommends for each of those spaces. And down here at the bottom, you will notice the areas that our library does not currently have at all. Next slide. Throughout the study, the architect determined that we had 5 major priorities. Those priorities included expanded children's department and a dedicated teen space. The children's department would have an active play area and quiet areas and a program room. Currently, our program room is about the size of a bathroom, so we can comfortably fit about 10 kids in there, and during cold and flu season, it's not a pretty picture. We also need a large multi-purpose program space, increased study and meeting rooms, and storage for both the library and the Friends of the Library so that they could collect books year-round and host a used book sale right on property. Also, I said the teen room in the beginning, but I'll reiterate, a dedicated teen room, a cafe, and a computer lab. So the architect came back to us with this first floor plan, option number 1. And as we looked at it, we decided that the children's room really was not meeting the expectations. But we did get a larger children's room, we got a program room, one study room, and a meeting room. We are missing the dedicated teen space, the kids' bathroom, a storage for everybody, computer lab, adult teen, and space. In adult teen collection space. The pro of this is the lowest cost of construction, but it has limited site impact and it has a minor renovation of the existing building. But the cons are it does not meet the needs of our growing community. And it does not meet a requirement for the state grant, which I will talk to you more about in a moment. So we went back to the architect and we said, first off, we need to put a bathroom in the children's room. We can't have those little guys running through the children's room to get to the bathroom. So they came back with a second option, revised. And essentially, this is very similar to the first plan. This one gives us a kid's bathroom. We're still missing teen space, storage, computer lab, adult teen collection space. So we went back and we said, we need more. So they gave us option 2. And option 2 provides us with the larger children's room, a program room, the cafe, gallery, dedicated teen space, and 1 meeting room. But now it's missing the kids' bathroom again. No storage, no computer lab, and still lacking space for the adult collection. Still limited site impact, minor renovation, but we're not meeting the needs of the community, and we're not meeting the needs of the Connecticut State Library standards. So they moved on to option 3. In option 3, you'll notice that we get a lot of the things that we're looking for. We're still missing additional adult collection space, and we're still missing square footage to meet the state standards. That means that based on the state standards of the Connecticut State Library, we're still not meeting the needs of the community with this plan. Next slide, please. Here we have option 4. This is the proposed plan that we landed on. Option 4 provides us with almost every requirement we are looking for to meet the Connecticut State Library state standards, the library space planning guide, the needs of the community based on the community surveys that we did, the staff interviews, and the library board, the Friends, and the Granby Library Association requests. And this is what the plan is. So, essentially, you'll see right here, this is an addition onto onto the old library. This would come off the side of the library and go towards the monument. And we would turn our old children's room into a multi-purpose program room that could fit up to 200 people in it. We also are adding multiple meeting room spaces. This program space over here could turn into multiple meeting rooms as well. We have lots of storage. We have an opportunity for the Friends to have storage. We have a cafe, so that could be, anybody could meet there for coffee. We could have book clubs. The cafe was actually a request from the senior center, because we're trying to make also requests that can help us meet the space needs of other departments. Next slide, please. Here is the space planning square footage. The recommended square footage that is from the state library to meet the needs of our community, and then what option 4 gives us. You'll see that down at the bottom, the square footage per capita should be around 1.5, and our option 4 does bring us to 1.7. Next slide, please. So here's a few of the pictures that the architect provided us to show you what the space could look like. Above, you'll see that's how the addition could come off the side of the building, and that space would be the children's space and the teen space. This is a little virtual view of what inside the children's space could look like. There would be a program room, bathrooms, and around the corner would be the dedicated teen area. Outside, there'd be doors to access the patio, and lots of space for playing and learning and socializing. Next slide, please. These are some of the areas that we did not receive renderings on. So additional things to this new space would include lots of meeting space, a computer lab, a place for the Friends to have storage in their book sale, and a gallery where we can have local artists always have something out on display for people to see. Next slide, please. So now here's the money part. As you'll see, this is broken down in different areas that the architect planned for us. The original estimate was planned in October of '24. I reached out to him in March, and he did give me an update. He did say that originally we were at about 12.2 million. For this now, we're looking at 14 million, and each year we wait. Obviously, the price does go up. But here's a little site plan, so you can see again how it would be built onto the land. And if you turn to the next slide, please. Here is the estimated funding. We are currently working with a capital campaign consultant who is doing a study on if this is something that our community needs and or wants. And currently, their estimate is that we could fundraise approximately $5 million. And then with grants, I would be looking to write grants to equal about $2.5 million. And then I would like to request capital improvement funds for about $2.5 million. And then the remaining would go to a bond. So we do have, that would fluctuate based on how much we raise. And that would total around the 14 million. So this grant that is mentioned up here, there is a Connecticut State Library construction grant that equals $2 million. It does require a matching grant from the community, and we are eligible for it if we use option 4. Because we have to follow their space planning guide that they provide, that is how they determine if we are eligible to apply for that grant. So that's another reason why we landed on option 4. If we choose one of the smaller options, then we would not be eligible to apply for that grant. Next slide, please. Questions?
So let me kind of set this up. First of all, thank you, Amber, to you, to your board, to the friends of the library system. So far, you've done exactly what we asked you to do, which is to look long range and give us some options on what you think we need to be doing as we address our long range planning. So we're very grateful for the time and effort. And it was significant.
My pleasure.
It was significant to get us to this point. For the board, sometime in the next 30 days or so, we will have in front of us our revised long-term capital plan. And remember, I think I made a presentation about this after the first initial CPAC meeting. We committed to CPAC that we would go back. We'll still have one capital list, but it will include municipal projects and Board of Ed projects. We would go back and revise it, really do three things: to pull off anything that is no longer needed to be on that program because we've either paid for it or we've taken it off the list because we no longer need it as a priority, and then sort the remaining projects by cost using a $250,000 threshold. So $250,000 would fall into small cap, where we would be expected to pay for those projects through our annual small cap allocation, and then everything else to work with CPAC to try to find funding options for. And then our final responsibility was to try the best we could to put those remaining priorities, large cap priorities, in the year where we think we need to do them, right? So having said that, that plan's going to come back to us depending on the timing of when Mike's ready and the Board of Ed and the superintendent are ready in the next 30 days. And we will have to put in a number, or I suggest we put in a number for this library project. That'll be our decision. Do we put in a number, and what is the number? So with that in mind, we're not going to make any decisions tonight, but I do want everybody to get their questions out tonight if you can, so that we can make an educated decision as part of our capital plan. Does that sound good to you?
It does.
Who wants to start? You want to go first, Ryan?
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. This is very interesting stuff. Just quickly, how often do you think kids come over from the high school and utilize your space? Because just as an aside, when I was there in the 80s, there wasn't much of a library. So we would utilize Granby's library. So how often do you see the high school kids?
I'll tell you right now, it's not often.
Okay.
But that is because they do not have anywhere to go.
Okay.
I was the children's and teen librarian in Avon prior to this, and I worked really hard to get a dedicated teen space, and now they have to turn teens away.
Oh.
And their middle and high school are comparable in walking range,
Right.
just like ours. And I know we would have a lot more kids, but they come in now and they either get to sit with the kids or with the adults, and they just don't feel like they have a place. But we had 14 teens playing Dungeons and Dragons in his tiny little program room 2 weeks ago. So if we could give them a space, I really do think they would. If you build it, they will come.
Okay. I'll review it some more, but thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, great presentation. My one question is on the grants, are there additional grants that you think that you might be able to go after?
Absolutely.
Above and beyond the state and the extra 500?
Yep, so my goal is between $500,000 and $1 million in grants. Part of our capital campaign consultant package will be that they will support us with finding those grants and working with how we can do that. When I was in Avon for the teen library there, we did with Hartford Foundation, and we were able to get almost $200,000, and that paid for the whole space. So I know there are options and opportunities out there for us to find more grants.
That was it.
Okay.
I have a bunch of questions, so I'll go last. Thank you.
I was trying to quickly do the math, but how much of the additional square footage is proposed with option 4?
So option 4 would bring our total build to 18,430 square feet,
And what is it now?
9,856.
So almost
It's about
double it.
double. Yep.
Size. And when you're talking about the teen activity room, what type of teen activities did you see at your previous library?
Oh, all kinds of things. We would do anything from, we had a lot of gaming opportunities. They could come over and whether it was board gaming opportunities or opportunities to play on a system. We'd have movie nights, we'd have after-school homework help, we'd have book clubs, lots of crafting things. We currently do Dungeons and Dragons. We do, my daughter who's in 6th grade comes over and does Fiber Arts Club where they do crocheting and different activities using different fibers. So we are doing teen programs now, but it would be nice to be able to offer more.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark?
Well, first of all, thanks for making use of Cosset Library for the makerspace.
You're
It
welcome.
seems to always be busy every time I go past it.
It is.
Thanks for coming up with this addition to the library. I know that more space is always needed for our collection and our activities. Last time we studied expansion of the library, the plan was to go up to a second story, which was, I believe, cost prohibitive. So thank you for coming up with an alternate solution that's at least a number that we can work on to get the additional space that our town needs.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, I saw the plan, and it makes a lot of sense to bump out that side of the building as opposed to having a separate location or going up.
All right, so I wrote my questions down on the pages of the presentation, so we might have to
Okay.
go back through it.
Sure. What page do you need?
The first one was just actually on the first page that talks about the state library standards.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually,
Can you go back to slide 2? Oh, no, no.
one more.
This one or the next one?
It doesn't really matter. My first one is really not a question, but a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm heartened by the fact that kids are still playing Dungeons and Dragons. 'Cause we did that when I was in high school, except back then, we kind of hid the fact if we were Dungeons and Dragons players. But
Oh, no, it's,
that's changed?
uh-huh.
All right.
And it's growing. We started out with four middle school kids, and the last one had 14, and we were like, oh boy, we have to
Yeah.
start turning them away.
All right. So the first real question is, I think, says this slide that says space planning, where you first lay out how to get to 19,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't sure, is the state standard is a square foot per residence? So it's not a total square footage.
So it's a formula. If you have, 11,000 people in your population, how much square footage you should have per person dedicated to the children's collection. And it actually really breaks it up into lots of different formulas, essentially. And the architect did all of the formulas. It's difficult because some of the areas that are in the library space planning guide do not match the areas that we have. Like, we did not have a computer lab and we didn't have a cafe. But that's essentially it. They look at, there should be a certain number for the kids' space, kids' collection space, and then they added up all of the collection space and put it in one area. So for
So
example.
it's not as simple as saying we got 11,000, you multiply that 1.5. You
It's
have to-
not. It's based
That's why the
on-
numbers don't add up. So that was my
It's
question.
based on what it is, so they determine, like staff workspace is smaller than public workspace, and a computer station there's two different kinds of computer stations. There's a single computer station, and then there's a duo for two people working on something together, and then there's a meeting room space and a quite small study space. So lots of different spaces with different formulas.
And we don't get any credit for space in Cosset, or do we?
We do not, because it's not within our building here, and it still doesn't, so makerspace is not considered it's considered a special space, so we consider that the special space that would fall under the special. We're actually still under, so I remember I said it was 19,000 They recommended 19,920 square feet, and we're at 18,420 square feet because the additional square footage would be at Cosset.
So, maybe I misunderstood the answer. So, are there any categories of these required spaces that we can meet or could potentially meet at Cosset?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Essentially, at Cosset, we get the adult collection space and the maker space.
Okay. And does the way the state grant work, is it really that inflexible that if you don't meet every single category, you can't say, well, yeah, but we got more of this?
They do allow you to kind of give them an argument of why we're not meeting this area, we're not meeting that area, and the committee will judge it based on what they're seeing, if they feel like that's acceptable. But in the session that you have to sit in before you can apply for the grant, they say if we look at it and it doesn't look like it's meeting the future needs of your community, we will not approve it. So they really want to see you're building a library that will withstand 10 plus years, 20 years even, if they think it's not going to uphold the needs that far out. They're going to say it doesn't meet their requirements.
So are they really looking at like population trends and stuff like that?
They are. When you fill out the library space planning guide, you have to put in the future population and the current population, the future population. There is a lot of math that you have to do when you're doing the space planning.
And forgive me, because, privately, you may have answered these questions for me a year or more ago. So how does the timing of the state grant work? Do you have to can you apply for it, secure it, and then use that as a component to build around?
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially this year, the grant would be due by the end of August. They would not announce the awards until January, and then you have 18 months to, oh gosh, I sent you the time frame and I did not bring it tonight. Essentially you have 5 years to complete the project post getting the award.
But there's some interim
There's
thing.
3
you gotta
years
prove
you
got the
have
matching
to,
funds.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's 18 months you have to prove you have the matching funds. 3 years you have to go to bond and start the project, and by 5 years it has to be completed.
Okay. So my next questions are, I don't know what page this is. It's on option 1, the $6 million original option 1. This is just where I have the right to.
Catherine, can you go to option 1?
So just by way of example, just picking out like the computer lab and the adult teen collection space, there's no, again, focusing on the state grant, there's no flexibility to make certain spaces multi-purpose. Like, you couldn't say this space is our meeting room space, but when we're not holding meetings, that's where the computers are?
Not really. It would really limit the ability of using the space. I mean, you could definitely use the computer lab as another meeting room space, but I don't think it could be exclusively. I think it would be difficult. You have all the computers set up to then host a meeting. That being said, there's definitely a lot of convertible options. So that's kind of how up in here, we've turned this into flex meeting. So there will be a wall that can go through it with tables that can come out. You can have 1 room, 2 room, or 3 rooms. So there is a lot of flexibility. And these plans are all very preliminary.
Right.
It's really just an idea right now of what we need and what it could be. We always have room to adapt it if we find exactly that, if we find we could do something different.
Yeah, I'm just going to editorialize this for a second. I mean, we're gonna have to do that. I mean, we're, to get a project built,
Sure.
we're gonna have to be willing to be flexible. It doesn't, I guess nothing surprises me anymore. It shouldn't surprise me that the state sets up a grant system that is so complicated, you might have to overbuild to qualify for it, but, all right.
And that was, if you look up here, the, when I did the math, Catherine, if you can go to option 3. So this is essentially the same as option 4 with more square footage. Option 4 meets the requirements and option 3 doesn't. So,
Yeah, all right. I think you answered this. So on all the options that don't meet the state grant, is it just the square footage portion of the requirements we don't meet?
the, if you go, Catherine, can you go to option 4, the next slide? So option 4, the only thing that's missing from it is the makerspace, but we have it at COSIT, but it is included in the special or other various places within the space planning. Again, we can use that we have it at COSIT as part of it. That's why our argument for the grant would be we're under in square footage in our plan, but that's because we have the additional square footage in our other location.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to confirm it publicly. So the estimates that we have here bring with them as good a level of confidence as we could possibly have
Yeah.
7 years away from a project or 5 years away from a project.
Yes.
They could change dramatically either way.
And this did come with a 10% increase halfway through the project. So when the architect came up with the estimate, it was an estimate of now and an estimate of what it would look like in a few years.
And I may have looked down, and so I apologize if you answered this in your presentation. What is the cafe? We're not really selling coffee, are we?
No. So the senior center actually requested that there would be an area where, because that's one area that they regret not putting over at the senior center, was a cafe, an area where you can make a cup of coffee and some comfy chairs and just a space to sit and commune and read the paper and be together. And so our plan is to provide that so that we can create a connection between our two departments. We're in that building. I go over there like I'm over there. But yeah, so we Sandy and I are working together to try and connect our departments, and that cafe would provide an area where, yes, there may be a time when we have a program, a book club, that also provides drinks and treats during that time. But otherwise, it is just an area for making connections and we're.
So that's not a state requirement, that's square footage?
That is, it is a state requirement, as in, they call it, let's see what they call that area. It's not necessarily a cafe, but they do say that you should have, oh my goodness, what do they call it? Like additional patron space. I can't remember what they call it, but within support spaces is what they call it. So, or non-assignable space. And they say that you should have at least 1,700 square feet. The state recommendation, is 2,500 square feet of existing space within the children's play space, computer lab, cafe, gallery, Friends of the Library. They suggest an additional space of 2,500 square feet, and this plan provides 1,700 square feet, including the cafe, kids' play area, computer lab, et cetera.
Okay. All right, I think actually all my other questions you have already been answered. Anybody else?
I just have one additional question on the meeting space. I think we all recognize that there's a lack of meeting space in town, and especially in the evenings. And of course, the limitation with the library meeting rooms is that they are only available while the library is open. So I'm just wondering if any thought was given or could be given to allowing meetings in the meeting rooms in hours when the library's closed.
We did think of that. That's why this space over here, this would all be turned into meeting space, and there would be a doorway. No. A door in the hallway here that would allow people to come in through the front door and go to their meetings, but then if the library closed, there's exits and bathrooms, but that the meeting space would still be usable outside of library hours.
Great, thank you.
So that would allow for up to 3 separate meetings to happen.
That would be great.
After hours. That is one of the biggest requests, is meeting space.
Yes.
Okay. Last call for questions?
I'm good, thank you.
All set.
All right. Thank you very much, Amber.
You're very welcome.
helpful.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Well, we don't have any old business that I know of. So the next item on the agenda is consideration of a library summer intern position for 2025. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, whoever chooses to make the motion, Kimmy has refined it. It includes some FICA and Medicare lines for both fiscal years, so I have that with me. This is similar to what we did last year. There's an agreement to provide $5,722.50 from both the Granby Library Association and the Friends of Granby Public Library. And Amber is here and can talk to what this does, but it's to accept the money and split it because it was unbudgeted. The motion simply allocates that so that we can move forward into the library summer intern position for 2025.
Any questions? So mine is, I just want to make sure I understood it. So this is a cost neutral, right? The entire costs are being picked up by our organizations, okay? Anybody?
Library, and actually I should clarify, the library does do the FICA and the taxes that come out of it. So the library payroll line item covers the additional.
Okay.
The payroll comes straight out of GLA and.
Okay. So, because you weren't at the mic, I'm going to repeat it to make sure we heard it. So the majority of the costs are being funded by our community partners, and there are some tax-related costs that are already included in your budget. Okay. Anybody interested in making a motion? If so, I'll give you the proposed revised motion here.
Since I'm closest, I can make it. I'm sure to pass it.
All right, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve a budget amendment to increase misrevenue line item by $2,289, payroll temp part-time line item by $2,113.89, and FICA and Medicare line item by $175.11 in the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 adopted general fund budget for the 4-week of library summer intern, and forward this request to the Board of Finance for approval.
Second.
I am not finished.
Oh.
I have 2 paragraphs.
This is a Kinney drafted motion, just keep that in mind.
Proper punctuation and everything.
I know. And I move that the Board of Selectmen approve a budget amendment to increase the miscellaneous revenue line item by $3,433.50, payroll temp part-time line item by $3,170.84, and FICA Medicare line item by $262.66 in the fiscal year 2025-2026 adopted general fund budget for 6 weeks, the library summer intern, and forward this to the Board of Finance for approval.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, the next item on our agenda is a library Peg Pisha grant award acceptance and budget adjustment. Mike?
Also, similar to last year, The library has secured a $7,344.28 grant from the State of Connecticut Public Utility Regulatory Authority. They will use that to purchase 2 interactive displays, one for the Fox Meeting Room, one for the Children's Programming Room. We are still getting our processing cycling down for grants. This grant was awarded prior to the time of the board even being aware that we were going after it. So we endeavor to get better at that in the future, but this is good news, and we would suggest the proposed motion. If you agree, we should accept it.
I will accept the proposed motion.
I will move that the Board of Selectmen approve an increase in the library automation line item in the fiscal year 26 general fund budget by $7,344.28 and forward this request to the Board of Finance to approve.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? I just want to say this is another good example of what we talked about during the budget process. This is good work where we actively seek these kind of funds that don't have any real strings attached. This is a capital project that if we wouldn't otherwise be able to do, or we'd have to take away from another project, doesn't have any ongoing costs, so good work. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is a Valley Brook Community Donation Recognition and Associated Stipulation.
So, Mr. Chairman, Valley Brook Community Church annually runs a live nativity, and for a number of years, they've been erecting a ramp to get the live animals onto the band shell at Salmon Brook Park. They have asked, and we would like to accept, subject to the board's approval, a generous donation of $15,000 from the Valley Brook Community Church for the express purpose of adding handicapped accessibility ramps to the band shell. We've worked this through Abby Kenyon and Joel Skilton, our building official, as well as our town engineer, and we do believe we can get this complete project done for the $15,000.
All right, there's a proposed motion. Does anybody want to make it?
I'll make the motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the $15,000 donation from the Valley Brook Community Church for the express purpose of providing the funding source for the planning, construction, and installation of a handicap accessible ramp to be attached to the band shell at Salmon Brook Park.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? You'll, of course, extend our gratitude to the church.
We will.
All
It's a
right,
great addition.
yeah, it's a good idea. All right, next item on the agenda is Connecticut General Statutes 29-260, which is the appointment of a building code and official for a 4-year term. Mike?
Briefly, there exists in Connecticut General Statutes over the last several years the need for each community to appoint a building official, and also it could be a different official, but an official who administers the building code. In this particular case, we could find no record that our building official, Joel Skilton, was ever appointed, so we're asking you, effective immediately, to make both appointments, meaning he will be the municipal building official, and he will also be the administrator of the code as outlined in the following motion.
Didn't you tell me that it was actually a citizen, Reinhardt? Isn't Reinhardt the one that brought this to our attention, that something we needed to clean up?
You are correct. Reinhard Meyer pointed this out to me, and I told him we'll check it out, and this is the result of his endeavoring to see us comply with Connecticut General Statutes.
All right, I'll accept the proposed motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen, based on the authority originating out of CGS Section 29-260 and the Granby Town Charter Section 7-4, direct Town Manager Mike Walsh to appoint Joel Skilton as building official and administrator of the building code for a term of 4 years effective immediately.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, next item on our agenda is a contract extension for Payne/USA Waste, including a discussion in the backup of why Mike is recommending that we execute an extension. So, Mike?
If you had the opportunity to read the Connecticut Mirror article dated April 14th, Connecticut sends millions of tons of trash to other states. It's an expensive and growing problem. You have an understanding of some of the complexities that we face. For many, many years, Payne's, almost 30 years, has been our exclusive contractor who basically does our curbside waste collection and recycling. They are a family-run business that for 95 years provided excellent service of solid waste collection in the Farmington Valley. For environmental reasons, State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection no longer permits new solid waste landfills, and our single burn facility, I believe it's the last one, some know it as CRRA, some know it as MIRA, that's being closed by June 30th, 2025. So as a result of state actions, the hauling of local municipal waste goes to open landfills in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio. Years ago, we saw tipping costs, meaning the cost per ton to dispose of this, as low as $55 a ton. They're right around $105 today and will escalate further in the coming years, we think up to around $135 a ton. Unfortunately, market conditions in town, not necessarily in town, in the state, required vendors only that have large capital-rich firms that are capable of providing the service. As you saw with this transaction, Payne's has sold out to USA Waste, so they're assigning the contract from Payne's to USA Waste. Prior to the assignment of the contract, Mike Payne, who lives in Simsbury, offered the town of Granby. Again, we've been with them since 1995 via a competitive RFP, which we did in 95, which selected them initially, and then subsequently again in 2006 when they were the only bidder. It should be noted that the solid waste vendors need to be locally sourced with access to a permitted transfer facility in order to process the waste that they collect. So since 2006, using the sole bid, Granby has rolled over its solid waste collection contract for a number of reasons, including no other vendors geographically located. The existing vendor, Payne's, provided excellent service. Any contracted rollover increase was predicated on simply the consumer price index from year to year. We also know that given the complexities of the market, issuing an RFP would likely raise the rates that we have in place. And then finally, if we change vendors, we would have to repay the vendor, since they own the recycling barrels, not the town barrels, the trash barrels, but $350,000 that they've invested in the 5,000 barrels. So what we're asking the board to do tonight is to basically bless a 5-year extension with the July 1, 2025 increase at 1.5%. And when you take a step back, that raises our collection rate monthly to $7, from $7.95 to $8.07. So for about $2 a week, that truck rides in front of your house and picks up your trash barrel. In some weeks or some months that have the 5th week in them, you're really only talking about $1.75. So we're not talking about an exorbitant increase in a complex market. So I'm asking to move forward so that the coming year, we can accept their quote at 50% of the annual CPI New England, and then for July 1, 26, an increase based on the full CPI. Then again in July 1, 27, half the CPI, and then the final 2 years at the CPI. So that would be July 1, 2028 and July 1, 2029. After that, we have an option to go for 3 additional years. And I would mention that we are not locked into this. If at any point in time we have a better option, we simply need to give our vendor a 6-month notice to opt out. So this gives us flexibility. It commits us to certainty. And given the market, we think these numbers that Mike Payne handed us before he handed the company over to USA Hauling and Waste are good for the town of Granby long-term.
Before I call for the motion, any questions?
I'm assuming the increase is already accounted for in the budget?
It is.
Any other questions? I agree wholeheartedly. I think at a time where there's uncertainty on where the trash is even going to be taken or disposed of, and where there are very, very few companies who would be willing to bid, I think extending the contract under the existing terms with just a increase based on the CPI is extremely prudent. I can't imagine that issuing an RFP, we would get better than that. What's the pleasure? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen direct Town Manager Mike Walsh to accept the Payne/USA Waste contract extension offer of an increase based on 50% of the annual CPI New England for the period beginning July 1, 2025, and an increase based on the CPI New England for July 1, 2026, an increase based on 50% of the CPI New England for July 1, 2027, and an increase based on the CPI New England for the period July 1, 2028 and July 1, 2029.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is July 4th, 2026, America 250 Granby Commission creation. Mike?
On July 4th, 2026, America will turn 250. Planning for the day is taking place in communities across the state as well as the country as a whole. The state of Connecticut has created an America 250 Connecticut Committee, which is helping municipalities with the planning, but we need something local. So to that end, Charter Section 6.1 provides this board with the ability to appoint by resolution such a committee. The resolution is below, and it will allow the committee called Granby America 250 Committee with the charge of planning Granby's events associated with America's 250th birthday. Hopefully, Mr. Chairman, you have somebody in mind who's capable and can plan this committee.
Well, yes, I most certainly do. Our colleague, Mr. Newman, actually enthusiastically volunteered some time ago to lead a committee to help us do our planning, and I would like to accept your, well, first of all, I want to confirm again for the third time that
Yes, I am willing to serve on that committee, and I would help recruit other members, and we'll choose a chairman based
okay,
on the committee's decision.
all right. So we put this on the agenda mostly to confirm your commitment and to confirm the Board of Selectmen's willingness to just turn it over to you and you take charge of it. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, then the motion probably does that.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead. No,
You
go.
want to? Resolve that the Board of Selectmen, consistent with Charter Section 6-1, does hereby create the Granby America 250 Committee for the express purpose of planning, coordinating, facilitating, and publicizing any events deemed necessary and proper to appropriately recognize and celebrate America's 250th anniversary on July 4th, 2026.
Second.
All right, before we vote, Mark, I'd point out, as I'm sure you saw, there's some background information that we've received from what the state's doing. Use it as a resource if you can, and we've already had at least one citizen reach out to me who's interested in what we're doing and potentially serving, which I passed her email address on.
Yes, I have the contact for her, and I'll certainly reach out to her when we're setting up a committee meeting.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is consideration of Cider Mill Heights parcel sale process, specifically to make a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mike?
We are asking to go through the steps to first have the Planning and Zoning Commission report back on a Connecticut General Statute 824 report, meaning if we sold this parcel would it comply with our conservation of plan and development? So this is what the referral is, but provided it comes back in a positive fashion, we anticipate issuing a request for proposal. It's a 1.85 acre lot that we've held on to since 2005, when a number of houses in that development began. We thought we were going to use it to store equipment and perhaps various salt and sand surpluses in the event that rather than send a truck back and forth, we would stage it from there. That has not proved the plan. So we feel on occasion when we get a request of interest from various people, we thought we would level the playing field, issue a request for proposal, set a minimum bid for the parcel, and then come back to the Board of Selectmen for approval and ultimately possibly, depending on where the sale went, for a public meeting.
Just a quick comment before I consider the motion again. When we all first sat on the board together, Mark, obviously, when we joined you, I think one of the things we discussed as part of our long-range planning was to look at all the assets we're holding and consider ones that we might be able to divest of, and I think this furthers that thought process and goal. So again, all we're doing tonight is referring it to the planning commission and not committing ourselves one way or another, but the first step is to have them make a determination under the statute. So, anybody else have any other comments before I accept the motion? All right, then I'll accept the motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen refer parcel 603 of Cider Lane to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration under CGS 8-24 and report back to the Board of Selectmen with their findings.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is a sanitation fund expenditure request for barrels, parts, and recycling, printing, and postage.
Mr. Chairman, your solid waste fund is a fund separate and distinct from the general fund. Oftentimes, it could be called a special revenue fund. As a result, we need separate appropriation approval from the board for this. In this particular case, Kirk is requesting, our Public Works Director, a number of trash barrels, 200, between $52.50 plus freight, $12,525 for that. While we have in the past bought bear-resistant trash barrels, we've purchased 179 in the past, and they've all sold out. So we're asking for another 75 at $300 a barrel, and freight adds that for a total of $25,964. There's some spare parts, locks and hasps, that we want to keep on hand to repair some of the bare barrels that we have already deployed. And finally, the printing of a recycling flyer with mailing charges, a total of $4,000. So in total, the appropriation equals $43,529. And the motion on the first page basically seeks your approval for that.
I don't see the motion.
Bottom
first
of the
page.
front page.
Okay.
Oh, I'm on page 2. Okay, thank you. Let's get a motion on the floor. I have a question or two, but
I'll make a motion to approve a $43,529 appropriation from the Solid Waste Special Revenue Fund to provide funding for new trash barrels, barrel parts, and for the printing and mailing of an informational flyer, and forward this request to the Board of Finance for their consideration and approval.
Second the motion.
I can go last. Any comments or questions?
What do residents pay for the bear-resistant barrels?
I believe we, this is only a guess, but I believe we charge them our cost $300 per barrel. But I'm not sure.
That is correct.
That's correct.
There's a bear who
Okay.
transits my property regularly, and we opted for the bear barrel at our house. It is twice a year successfully thwarts him or her, could be a woman. So for my property, it's certainly worthwhile.
Great.
That was one of my two questions, which I knew the answer to, but I wanted to make sure the public understood. And then I also know the answer to the second question. So what that revenue that we receive from those sales goes back into the same fund which we're drawing from tonight.
You are correct.
Okay. All right. And I do think it's a good idea to spend some money reminding our residents of what the recycling rules are, because when they don't follow them, it actually increases the total cost. Trash that should have been recycled gets rejected and you have to pay a tonnage fee on it, so. All right. I forgot. Do we have a motion and second already?
Yeah.
You.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item is right to farm ordinance referral, receive feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Development Commission.
Mr. Chair, I'm quickly turning this back over to you. Back in December, we sent a draft of the right to farm ordinance to the Agricultural Commission, from the Agricultural Commission to both Planning and Zoning and the Development Commission. Their feedback is enclosed in a memo from Abby Kenyon to the board dated April 21st. The question is, what is the board's preference moving forward?
Right, so to build on that a little bit and refresh everybody's memory, this has been on the Ag Commission's sort of list. It was one of their recommendation to us on our global goals and objectives. Peggy worked very hard with the chair of the Ag Commission to issue a proposal that actually word for word would have adopted the state statute as part of our code. And I think that was prudent from a purely legal standpoint to make sure that we did that, because we don't want to create any separate rights locally that might conflict with what the state did. I'm summarizing the report in the back, but it seems to me that both the Planning and Zoning Commission raised some reasonable concerns about that creating confusion and potentially people anticipating that the town would then start enforcing the state law, because it was also a statute of ours. And so, my, again, reading of both of their recommendations, although they were slightly different, was to roll this discussion, because the goal was not to just duplicate state law, but the goal was to take steps towards where we could feel comfortable promoting ourselves as an agricultural-friendly town or a right-to-farm town. So as I understand it, which I think generally is still our goal, both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Development Commission are recommending that we roll that into our plan of conservation rewrite and review that's going to get started here soon, in the next few months, and look for other ways to accomplish that same goal. Goal being, again, to be able to promote ourselves as either a right-to-farm town or a agriculturally friendly town, so the Ag Commission could take advantage of that and promote it. So what is the pleasure of the board? Peggy, you want to go first? Do you have anything additional?
I mean, I think it does make sense to ask the folks who end up on the committee updating the plan of conservation and development to make sure that they work with the Agriculture Commission to incorporate the principles that they're trying to achieve in the next plan.
Okay.
And maybe in the meantime, we can encourage folks from the Ag Commission and the Development Commission to meet and try and come up with initiatives that would further that agenda.
I know you did a lot of the research and the work on this. Is there anything that prohibits us from calling ourselves a right-to-farm ordinance town, even if we don't have an ordinance? That you recall?
Well, no, there's nothing in the statute that would prohibit it.
All right. Okay,
We probably don't want to suggest that we have an ordinance if we don't. but-
right, understood. All right, so you're generally okay with kind of wrapping this in what, I heard what you said.
Sure, yeah.
I'm getting to it. Mark, what about you?
Well, I know we discussed the fact that we would be duplicating state statute, and that if putting it in the plan of development rather than a separate ordinance is our way of doing that, I'm satisfied with that task.
Okay. Kelly?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with having them see if they can incorporate it in and maybe just table this in the event that that doesn't happen. You know, we can revisit it at that point.
Yeah, I don't think we technically need to table it, because we haven't put any, like, to actually adopt an ordinance, we would have to put it on our agenda to begin
Right,
with.
right.
Yeah, understood. Okay,
Same, yeah, I'm okay with it.
okay. So I think that's enough, right? We don't have to take official action?
No.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is a resolution and compliance statement and policy supporting the Fair Housing Act requirements.
Mr. Chairman, a number of things. This was done last year, and I presume we did it for a number of years. So this is the 2025 version. It's consideration of a resolution where we adopt the Fair House Resolution, a compliance statement, which incorporates a few different things, as well as policies supporting fair housing. So the memo is fairly straightforward, self-explanatory, and there's a motion on the back that simply moves to readopt the resolution, the policy statement, compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the affirmative action policy statement, and then the municipal grievance policies, as well as the ADA notice.
Yep, I do think we do this every year. And as the memo points out, it's required for us to continue to seek and obtain community block grant funding. And even if it wasn't, it's the right thing to do. So unless somebody objects, I would ask for the motion.
I will move that we readopt the Fair Housing Resolution, Fair Housing Policy Statement, compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Affirmative Action Policy Statement, Municipal Grievance Procedure, and ADA Notice.
Second the motion.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mike?
Thank you. A few items to bring to the community's attention. Out of the town manager's office, I continue to attend the standing meeting with Seven Summits and New Samaritan, looking to do housing, predominantly senior housing at the Kearns site. Earlier in March, we hosted the Farmington Valley Collaborative Quarterly Meeting. And then finally, I took a meeting with the Safety Committee Chair on town panic buttons and Salmon Brook Park speed bumps. So we'll be incorporating those two into some initiatives moving forward. Out of the Finance, Tax, and Assessor's Office, kudos and congrats to Kimmy. She's attended her first Board of Directors meeting for the Kerma Operations and Underwriting Committee meeting. She's been added as a valuable participant at Kerma's behest, so good for her. Kimmy also worked with the Amazon business account representative, restructuring our account, saving about $1,300 a year, and then sharing that good news with the Board of Ed in the event that they wanted to reciprocate. Repriced out of the assessor's office, as the board is aware, Sue Altieri repriced all motor vehicles and reapplied the exemptions based on the new local option for that. In terms of community development, the fire marshal received a grant award for $500 for the purchase of a camera. If you recall, a couple of months ago, as part of a communication, we had said that the fire marshal made that application, and we have notification that we were awarded. So the fire marshal will be able to buy, with that $500, a new camera to be used in the operation of his duties. BFJ Planning is holding a public meeting on May 15th at 7 p.m. in this very senior center for further discussions on the Granby Center Master Plan. I would direct everybody's attention to the website, www.granby-ct. There is a Center Advisory Committee link there, and everything you wanted to know about what's happened to date is housed there. With respect to information technology, a shout out to Mark Bombard, Catherine Lanyon, John Lambert from IT, as well as Tristan and Frank. The very senior center audio-visual project has been completed. The system worked well for the March 24th Board of Finance meeting, and we hope it is working well for tonight's Board of Selectmen's meeting. Police Department, a few things to note. We've had a small run of some officers getting hurt. We have one that had a work-related shoulder injury and will be out 6 months due to a surgery. There is an officer on light duty due to a non-work-related injury. They'll be out a total of 9 weeks. And we received, an officer received an injury at training, has been assigned to light duty. When you only have 14 officers and 3 of them are out, it is a concern. So we are 3 officers down, and the police department is managing well. Captain Laflamme also visited the Bear Transition Academy, and they're working to get students to volunteer at the police department, so that's a good thing. I won't go into a lot of detail, but if you look up the town manager's report, which is attached to this, there's a number of crime incidents from Hemlock Street to various other medical assists, and the suspicious package was found at the Granby Public Library. It turned out to be a concerned citizen who found a lunchbox in the parking lot and basically set it in a box next to the library. We got a little bit concerned, so we had a little bit of a drill, but ultimately no harm, no foul was done. Public Works, the Salmonbrook Park was open for athletic groups to practice. To date, we have received 16 snow and ice events. I think that number's up to 17 after last weekend's surprise snowstorm. And Kirk has finished road overlay estimates for work to be done over the next 3 years. And that's based on a 10-year overlay that they strategically look at annually. With respect to the library, as you saw tonight, they were awarded the 2025 PIC-PISA grant. And then as far as human services, which includes youth, parks and rec, senior and social, they had 77 applications for the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program. They had 180 seniors complete their income tax filing. They had 92 lunch guests at the St. Patrick's Day luncheon, and a shout out to First Selectman Mark Fiorentino for helping serve with the Flying Yankees Airmen. And finally, just a shout out to the community. We are still in need of another van driver. New relative this month is a report from the Registrar of Voters. They wanted us to know that they have new voting tabulators that were delivered earlier in April. The annual canvas mailing to verify voters was sent out on March 31st. They conducted a presentation to the Granby Memorial High School senior class and registered 50 new voters. They had they launched the new statewide voter registration system called Total Vote, and I'm sorry, that's scheduled for June 2nd, so there'll be training in May for a launch on June 2nd. And then finally, there was a presidential executive order signed on March 25th, which could take effect on April 24th. If implemented, it will have major impacts, notably requiring all voter registrations to be done in person. That is being litigated, so that's more of a cautionary advisory than anything we're working on. And finally, we all met, again, for those of us who have met her before, Jen Espinal. She dutifully worked on the 25-26 bond referendum and bond resolution questions that are in front of the voters tonight. She also implemented e-recordings in March, and that's a fundamental way of doing business differently to take care of more automation. And then finally, Laura, out of the town clerk's office, tackled the COT land records project by catching up on a large volume of data. So good news on a number of fronts, and if anybody wants to see what we're doing, by all means, I'd encourage you to pick up the report. I'll turn it over to Kimmy. If there's anything Kimmy wants to say on the March 25 financials, highlights of revenue or expenditures, nothing really new other than pressure on police overtime and public works overtime. Kimmy?
Yeah, I did have a memo that created, mentioned about the SS course grant the expectations that it will be a favorable condition by the end of this fiscal year. That is noted in the summary memo. And I will take any questions that the board may have.
Let's start there. First on the financial report from Kimmy. Anybody have any questions, comments? Great work, Kimmy. Thank you. Mike? Now on Mike's report. Any questions or comments?
Under the town clerk section, there's a reference to sub-registrars from Carmen Funeral Home. What are those?
I had the same question, so thank you for going first. Is there something we need to know about our registrars, or? See what she's talking about?
I can help with that if you want.
Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the duties for the town registrar is recording deaths, and one of those is the sub-registrar who works with the funeral homes to properly register death certificates.
All right, so it's not a typographical error. All right,
Makes sense.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? All right, I have a few. The first I'm going to do is just remind the public who's watching. Mike only went through maybe 10% of what is in this report, so it is a very, very detailed report. There's no way you could read this report and wonder what we're working on month to month. So please take the time to review it. It's easily accessible on our website under the Agendas and Minutes tab. Just a couple of comments. First of all, that's a great job on the Amazon savings. Another example of looking everywhere we can. As I understand the savings, it's $1,300 a year just in the flat fee, but there's the potential for additional discounts as we go forward, buying stuff. So great job. House Bill 767 on that's the veterans exemption, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I was meeting with Representative Anderson, getting an update on stuff, and he told me there could be significant changes to that before the session is over, so be patient, I guess. He's not sure what they'll be, but he knows that there are lots of, that was my word, there are a number of different proposals to potentially change that, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it. On page 2, the Peg Pisha grant, we don't have to do it tonight because it's getting kind of late, but at our next meeting, can you just give us some detail about what we were doing in Town Hall in the studio?
Yes.
We don't have to do that tonight. Two more kudos. Doesn't sound like a lot, actually, but it's something, again, our registrars have done every year, and I'm grateful for they do. You highlighted it, but I want to highlight it again. If they go into the high school and talk to seniors and get them to register to vote, 50 new voters, that's roughly half the class, right? Senior class?
So my class is 145, and the other thing is that this is the second voter drive, and so like I myself registered in the first one,
Yeah.
so there should be around like probably I bet around 80 kids. Like they had everyone sign the form the first time, even if I wasn't 18 at that point. So I'm like in the system now, so that I'm ready for the next
Yeah.
election. So.
I mean, that's a great job. You guys have probably heard me say before, I actually think we should make it a graduation requirement that you have to show you registered to vote before you get your graduation certificate. But it's heartwarming that folks are signing up and taking their obligation to vote seriously, so. And the last kudos, I put a giant smiley face on the last bullet point about, in the town clerk office, we're working on trying to centralize our files in a retrieval system. That's something that needs a lot of work. Betsy's not paying attention anymore, but I actually tried to make her come up with a plan about a year ago. And so it's something that needs some attention. I'm glad and I'm grateful that we're working on that. Any other Comments or questions? I will go quickly through our reports. The first selectman report, I have two things. The first is I wanted to share some very good news and a neat occurrence in our town. So I think it was this past Thursday, we had a citizen, Mary Sullivan, who celebrated her 100th birthday. And I want to thank Sandy Yost and the team over at Social Services who took the time to remember Mary. They went out and visited her in her home and wished her a happy birthday. They issued a proclamation that I signed on behalf of the board. And even though it's going to take a second, I'm not going to read the whole proclamation, but there are 3 lines that I would like everybody to hear so that you can help us congratulate. And I don't know Mary personally, but help recognize who she is as a person. So the first one says, whereas Mary has been a steadfast presence in her community and a beacon of faith as an active and cherished member of the St. Catherine of Siena Church in West Simsbury, offering her time, spirit, and heart to her parish and her neighbors. And whereas over the course of a century, Mary has touched countless lives with her warmth, generosity, and humility, embodying the very best of what it means to live a life of service, love, and purpose. And whereas her legacy lives on not only through her grandchildren, not only through her children, but she had 15 children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but also through the values that she has instilled, the love she has shared, and the faith that has sustained her. So I hope I get, I wasn't in town, or I would have joined the presentation personally, but I hope I get the pleasure to meet Mary in person at some point. So join us, if you know Mary, and even if you don't, in your heart, in helping her celebrate her 100th birthday. Last thing I have tonight, we touched on a little bit, the Planning and Zoning Commission is just beginning. Tomorrow night, they have an agenda item on their agenda to the process of doing our required review of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Tomorrow night, they're specifically discussing a framework and process for setting up and choosing a committee, which is required by statute. They are going to take responsibility for leading that process and setting up the committee. So I just want to say to citizens who are paying attention, if you're interested in that process or potentially in serving on that committee, for now, follow the Planning and Zoning Commission agendas because that's where those discussions will be heard. And once they have settled on size of the committee and the process they want to use, we'll push out more information to the public, both on how to get involved in the committee if they want to, and then how to pay attention to the process. So, any questions about that? All right. Fred, you got anything?
Nothing from me.
You got anything?
Yeah, I attended the Junior Achievement Dinner, this was this month, and Zainab, who's not here tonight, was one of the speakers, so she spoke in front of hundreds of executives, did an absolutely phenomenal job. She outshined a lot of the executives who gave speeches, really did a very impressive job, so she represented Granby very, very well at that event.
Awesome.
So, that's it.
Maggie?
Nothing from me.
In keeping with the America 250 committee that we just formed tonight, we reference back to last Friday. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote about Paul Revere's Bride, which happened 250 years ago on Friday.
Awesome. Thank you. One other quick announcement. I think the budget passed. Is that right, Mr. Guarco? All right. We'll get you the exact numbers later, but budget voters have approved this year's budget. By a vote of 698 to 447. The second question, should we reallocate funds for the bridge project, passed by a vote of 800 to 300. Thank you. All right. Ben.
All right. So I got a bunch of stuff today. So first off, I want to say thank you for everyone who was able to attend and support Empty Bowls. I saw individuals from the board supporting, and so it was great to see the community showing out for the NHS Run event that has all its proceeds go to the Heartland and Granby food banks. Also in the high school, before spring break, we had 2 Connect Days, which saw everyone in school go see presentations on social issues and also watch a movie on screen use. We also did have our second voter drive, which you have clearly heard about, which went very well apparently. For sports, we are already in the thick of the season right now. I got 3 tennis matches for the rest of the week, so on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of buzzing energy, a lot of competitions from all the softball, baseball, lacrosse, so pull up if you can. Of course, you might have heard about the senior water wars. There was a little kerfuffle at the start of it, especially on Granby Living, where there was a slight lack of communication. So there are some teenagers running around with water guns trying to get their targets. So that is a tradition like no other that is.
Are you still alive?
Yes,
All right.
I might go out that back door. I'm being completely honest.
You want Mike to escort you out?
I might have one of you guys go first. Let you guys get started. And then also, so we of course had spring break last week, so everyone is extra excited of all the vacations and the free time we had. But for many of us, we also are reaching the crunch season because we have our AP tests for our advanced classes, and then soon enough it's finals and graduation. So a lot of classes are speeding up right now. So that's what's going on.
What about you personally? What are your plans?
For next year?
Yeah, after you graduate.
I'm all committed to McGill University.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Next
So,
time, when we
really
have a
excited.
little more time, I'm going to ask you about McGill University because I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, I can
see.
talk about it.
So we'll ask you next time. Any questions for Ben? All right, we will go on to the public session. Just a brief reminder of the rules. We set a 5-minute time limit. We will set a timer just so we're not distracted watching how long you got left. If it goes off, we'll just ask you to wind up. If there are questions, I will write them all down, and when we're done with public session, if it's something I feel like we can confidently give a complete answer to tonight, we'll try. If not, we will make note of it and bring back answers at a future meeting. So we'll start in the room. You guys want to address this in public session in the room? You guys start with your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Harper. I live at 48 Barndore Hills Road. And I was unfortunately unable to attend the March meeting on the 17th when the Barndore Hills Road farmland was discussed. So I have a couple of questions and comments about the resolution there. During that meeting, the remarks were opened with talking that there were many contacts made to the group of neighbors that stated their concerns on October 21st, and nobody had replied. I personally had not been individually contacted between October and February. I did not speak to any neighbors that had said they'd been contacted, so I'm not sure who had been reached out to. I did reach out myself at the end of February thinking we have not heard anything back yet. We're starting to get towards the beginning of the growing season. I should make sure that we are, aligned on what's going on and we have a path forward. And I did hear back from Mike with a partial reply because, Mark, you were out of town at the time. And the only topic was mentioned at that time was that command would not be used in the future and that there was awareness of a DEP complaint. So I was waiting for the future resolution information there. I was asked what we were looking for as resolution, and Throughout the summer, during the October meeting as well, myself and many of the neighbors have raised concerns, including water quality, soil quality, impact to wildlife, including insects and pollinators, erosion, modifications made to the property by the farmer prior to obtaining permits, concerns about whether pesticides should be used at all, how the lease would be monitored and enforced, notifying recreating residents of the entry hazards and the trash and cleanliness of the property and neighboring properties. The resolutions that were described in the meeting and sent to me via email the day after the meeting only addressed those 2 items. I am curious what further information the board is looking for from the residents. What info can we provide that will help us get where we need to go? I'm not sure. We have our list of concerns. Like, do you need to know like what soil and water tests we're asking for? Or what specifics do you want from us so that we can help work together here? And then as to the specific items mentioned, it was stated initially that the farmer is not obligated to do any of those items, and that is factually incorrect. The farmer has agreed not to use command, and per email traffic with the town and Diane Jorsey at the Deep from July of last year, the town is already aware that the use of command on this property is illegal. Based on the location that it is and its distance to homes, it's not legal to apply command in this location. I'm glad the farmers agreed to follow the law. Restrooms, eye wash stations, and trash receptacles will be provided, which is great, but restrooms and eye wash stations are also required per the law. And trash receptacles just seems to be a common sense solution to item 11 on the original lease that requires the premises be kept in a clean and sanitary condition. I'm glad we're asking for the farmer to follow the law and the lease, but that was already expected the first year that a licensed pesticide applicator would follow laws relevant to applying pesticides. And that, of course, he would follow the relevant clauses of the lease, including things like keeping property in a clean and sanitary condition. Also, a list of applications and products provided to the town at the end of the growing season doesn't really enable the town to ensure products they're being correctly applied, because we'll only learn after the fact. And that doesn't really satisfy the request from the neighbors back in October, where we had said we'd love to learn what's going to be applied in advance. Because knowing later on, it means that unfortunately we'll only learn after eating our summer's worth of vegetables from our gardens whether or not they were organic, because there is overspray that's coming off onto our land. Unless we happen to be in the cultivated area during that time when the notices are posted, and I would also like to know more details on the requirements of those notices. It seems as though no one has really walked the property completely. I want to make sure the board is aware there's 9 different entrances to that property from the trails that people in the town and nearby areas that are coming here to recreate are using, in addition to the main roadway. So I'm curious, will all of those get notices posted? Will you be able to know that you're safely entering the property from any of the different locations you could enter? And then finally, was discussed that there's not a clear enough delineation between my property and the town's property. I know I had complained initially about workers that were on that property. I had tried to make it very specific, even though it was stated in the last meeting that I complained about workers being on my path. I have no concerns with the workers being in the area. My concern is more about the situation. I have it open. There are trails. People use them. The workers are just as welcome as anyone else to use those trails. My issue is that they're defecating and leaving food trash and beverage cans and soiled toilet paper on the path and in the field. It's more about their use of the land, not that they're walking along it. That part doesn't bother me. And it felt as though the town is implying that I'm at fault for not properly marking my property lines. And I believe it was Kelly had the question of like, why would the town go ahead and mark something on a private property? And I just wanted to let the town know, since it sounds like no one's been out there. I have 6 signs on my property stating on those edges that it is private property. I've had 4 of them up since 2019, and 2 of them were added in 2022. I also have 1 additional sign near my home, the part that comes right towards my house, that denotes that as private. So what additional signage is the town looking to provide that I don't already have?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lee Shaw, number 1 Barndore Hills Road. And I know I need to say that I do appreciate the fact that that Mike and Mark have been working on this, and I did get an email back saying that, you know, you had come up with these items that you thought would address the concerns. And I appreciate the fact that there seems to be frustration on both sides here, perhaps on your side, definitely on the side of the residents, about seeing whether or not we can get this resolved. And I did send a letter on April 1st. I'm not sure whether all of you have read it, but I did mention some of the things that I noted about your agreement and what you sent about what you want to do. And part of my feeling here is the fact that it seems like this farmer is not that easy to deal with, and that we have to be a bit more careful with him. And I'm really concerned about the fact that finding out what he sprayed after he sprayed it at the end of the season isn't a good idea. We'd really like to know in advance what he's going to spray. Generally, if you're he knows what he's got. If he's planting, he knows what he's going to wind up spraying on it. Doesn't sound like it would be a big deal for him to be able to give us a list of what his plans are for that particular property. And the other thing I feel like is that he's also farming the East Street property. I think we need to look at what he does as a whole, not just on the Barndore Hills property, because there's plenty of homes around there that could be affected if he sprayed something incorrectly there also. I did have an email from my neighbor, Celeste Johnson. She wanted me to read a very long email, and I know it's getting late, and she's got some very good detailed information in the email. A lot of it about wetlands and what he's done to the wetland section of the property, the first field down the hill. Only part of it was planted in corn by the previous tenant, and he did a lot of work on the rest of the property, which actually is very wet, and it was growing cattails, and there was a lot of plant life and that type of stuff in there, which he totally took out and flattened everything out. And, you know, Celeste was really concerned about the fact that the wildlife that she used to see down there when she took a walk was no longer there because he just eliminated it. So I think it's something that still needs to be looked at. I did attend several Conservation Commission meetings and spoke with them about the situation. And I did attend an Agricultural Commission meeting. And at that one, there were 2 of the Conservation Commission members speaking to them also. And I think it's something that we need to look at more closely with both of those commissions and really come up with a comprehensive plan about how we can manage these properties successfully so that, you know, we're doing proper stewardship and really addressing the fact that, you know, the kind of chemical applications this farmer is doing and the crops he's planting that apparently need all these chemicals really probably needs to be something that we have to address. And obviously, it's getting late in the season. I really worry about the fact that are we going to have another really tough year with this person doing what he wants to do and then having, you know, a lot of angry neighborhood residents and people that are going to be walking onto property that, you know, has been sprayed and we don't know about it. I think it's something that if we could look at it and make some changes before we decide that we're going to go ahead with letting him do what he wants for the next year, or at least make a decision about where we're going to be for this year and look forward to the following years as far as whether or not we're going to keep that lease up and have him be able to, you know, keep farming the land in that manner. I think that as a proper stewardship for that piece of property is for us to look at it more closely. I've been recreating down there for 20 years, and last year was not much fun because of the way the farmer did that with the spraying and all the other problems we had with his workers. And I think that we could do a lot better than that.
Thank you, Lee. You will go to Zoom. It's like Maureen would like to
Good evening,
speak.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm
Maureen.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Maureen Everly, Silky Road. Couple of things. I'm really excited as the former chair and secretary of the library board to see us moving forward with a lot of changes that need to happen. However, what troubles me is the fact that, as you cited, Mark, the state has a control on, doing a bigger project in order to get grant money, and in a sense, kind of holding us hostage to, adhere to a mandate. And I've lived with mandates through the public school system, so I know what that's like. But nonetheless, I think there are some changes with the way our library is that will be beneficial to the town. Of course, we have before us the current school project. We also have the park that we studied, and now the library. And I think we should be judicious because of state funding being somewhat different this year. And who knows what the implications for state funding will end up, putting a burden for taxes on residents of Granby. The other issue that I'm kind of looking for an answer for is the parking lot where CT Transit now comes in on Route 20, across the street from where the Walshes now live. It came up at a meeting for the park study that the people who are looking to park their trailers with horses are finding it very difficult to get in there. And even during the week, you can see Eversource trucks or tree service trucks. And now the tree service people are putting in wood chippers, which take up parking spots. Someone told me that the board or the state is getting $1,200 a month for having access for CT Transit to turn around in there because they're no longer, going up to the Congregational Church. And I believe the cars that are there in the parking lot are those people who rely on that location to get on the commuter bus. But I think you're going to find that with summer coming, foot traffic increasing in Salmon Brook Park, that if those parking spaces are taken up with all this heavy equipment, it's going to lead to some concerns. So I'd like clarification on how we can deal with that in light of receiving public funds through the state, if that's in fact true. I don't know. And other than that, I think we need to look at how, moving forward with these projects, what the tax implication will be. And kind of the recommendation I'd like to make is maybe it's time once again to put our heads together and take a look at that East Street property. It's been, town-owned land forever, and maybe now is the time to reevaluate where we're going with that property. Thank you too for Mark publicly acknowledging Reinhard Meyer for clarifying the roles for the building official so that we are now in compliance with state statute. Are there any questions anyone has for me?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you,
If
Maureen.
not,
Thank you, Maureen. Anybody else on Zoom?
Hi, Danielle Johnston. I live at 42 Barn Door Hills Road. And I'm also commenting in regards to the farmer leasing the land on Barn Door Hills. I just wanted to also make it clear that both my husband and my daughter, they spoke up at a meeting, and we were also not contacted, as one of my neighbors pointed out. We didn't hear any follow-up from the town. We did write a letter recently, and only then were we notified that the letter was received and that the town would continue working with the farmer. In that letter, we just reiterated that command was applied illegally to this farmland. The deep report laid that out very clearly. This appears to be a blatant violation of the lease. We vouched for the lease to be terminated for this reason and other reasons listed by my neighbors. We also shared concerns that this same farmer is also farming land near Wells Road Elementary School. That's a big concern for me, not only, as a teacher, but also my daughter goes to that school. Obviously, lots of other children go to that school. What oversight has that property received? Are pesticides being sprayed there that are getting into the environment while kids are playing at recess? We would like to know how the town is going to keep the residents safe from taking in harmful chemicals. How is the town going to ensure that safe farming practices take place? How is the town going to make sure that these chemicals are not getting into the water that runs through Salmon Brook that kids play in behind Salmon Brook Park? My kids also play in that brook that runs right behind my house, right between my property and the farmer's property that he's leasing. I have great concerns playing in that brook this summer if there are chemicals unbeknownst to me in that. I'm very concerned about the deep report that shows numerous neglectful farming practices, that shows, again, several violations. It's very difficult to trust a farmer that has this reputation in your own backyard. I'm obviously very concerned about my own children and family health, but also the health of Granby residents as a whole and my neighbors. It's been a disappointing, slow process that the town has taken to respond to residents before the growing season has started. It's been frustrating, quite honestly. It seems to have been put off, and now, again, the growing season is upon us. We would like to find a way to work collaboratively, but it hasn't really felt like the voices of the town members have been heard or taken seriously. And you mentioned that you would follow up with answers to questions. I realize you can't do that at this moment, but I would like answers to the questions that I've raised here because, again, I want to know how the town is going to keep its residents and my children and other people's children safe from these practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Anybody else? All right, we'll close the public session. Let me start with the Barn Door Hills. I'm not going to answer any questions tonight because I want to take the time to go through this tape minute by minute. So, because everybody had a lot to say, some of which was questions and some of which were not necessarily questions. So I will do that between now and our next meeting. I promise you I will go through it and give the best answers we can at this particular, wherever we are at that moment in time and when we next meet in May. With respect to Maureen, I want you to know that we understand the potential conflict issues that are arising related to the Route 20 parking lot. It's something that's already on our radar screen. I hope that members of the horse community and the horse council raise the trailer issue in our park study, but even if they didn't, because that's what I recommended people do. So even if they didn't, we're aware of that issue and that lot may get even more use in the future than it currently does. I don't think we receive a payment from the state to use that property.
No, the Asplund equipment you see there is a courtesy that the state reached out to the Public Works Director, and they've been there 2, maybe 3 months. I will get a date when they are leaving. It is a temporary condition. They are simply deployed there so that they can get to tree trimming within Granby and surrounding towns quicker. That will abate. The Route 20 parking lot, I'll call it the excess parking lot from the Salmon Brook Park, is the last stop in a particular bus route that goes directly to Hartford. Used to be up at the church. The Department of Transportation said we'd like to basically make the last stop that parking lot. We're not getting any mileage or ridership up at the church of any significant number. So they do make a full 360-degree turn at that parking lot and then head back to Hartford, probably several times a day. It is now a stop, and we've asked DOT on the northern side so that they don't have to make a 360-degree turn. We've asked them to pay for a cutout at their own expense, and they're assessing that. So those are the two things. One will abate, the other will not.
All right. And last thing I will say is make sure I give credit where credit is due. I appreciate Maureen thanking me for recognizing Reinhardt, but that actually was not my thought. It was Mike's thought. I just reminded him to say it. So, do we have any need for an executive session? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your patience. Extra long meeting since we didn't have one last time.